and we're going to talk about how you can lose weight in your sleep. So I would make this joke to my friends saying, well, I'm going to bed because I want to lose some weight. And many years later, I started looking into the science of it and realized why I had observed that 20 years ago. If you think you're someone who functions well on 5 hours of sleep, the data is there to show us that people who are sleep deprived, even if that they feel that they function really well, have more chances of dementia, more chances of Alzheimer, more chances of cognitive issues in the long run. And if you're somebody who travels a lot, if you want to beat jet lag, the best way to do it is to set your meals to the local time. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Eat, Burn, Sleep podcast. Today I'm going to do a solo podcast and we're going to talk about how you can lose weight in your sleep. Everyone wants to achieve a healthy body composition, but sleep is not something people talk about very often when it comes to weight loss. And I thought that I would cover this topic and I would give you a few tips for you to apply. So just to give you a little bit of background, I noticed when I was in my 20s, if I was trying to lose weight, I would achieve that when I slept more. I just noticed that. And I noticed as well that when I lacked of sleep, I would see my weight creep up. If I had sleep deprivation over a week, 2 weeks, I would notice that my weight would go up. So I would make this joke to my friends saying, well, I'm going to bed because I want to lose some weight. And many years later, I started looking into the science of it and realized why I had observed that already 20 years ago. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when you sleep or when you don't sleep enough. We all know that our bodies repair during sleep. We all know that when we're sick, we tend to sleep more. And what happens exactly during sleep and how does it impact weight loss? So the first thing to know is that when you are sleep deprived, when you get 8 hours or less of sleep, you tend to have more unstable blood sugar levels. So let's say that you eat an apple in the morning. If you eat this apple on 6 hours of sleep versus 8 hours of sleep, your blood sugar response is going to be different. So if you're somebody who suffers from insulin resistance, diabetes, pre-diabetes, whether it's diabetes type 1 or type 2, if you suffer from polycystic ovary syndrome, which generally comes with insulin resistance, or if you are perimenopausal, because women in the perimenopause tend to have a little bit of insulin resistance, you really must focus on getting enough sleep because otherwise your blood sugar levels will rise more with the same foods. And that's why when you don't sleep enough, you will notice that you get more cravings because your blood sugar levels fluctuate more. So if you want your body to tap into your fat stores for energy and be less reliant on sugar in your blood for energy, you've got to get a minimum of 8 hours of sleep per night. And if you think you're someone who functions well on 5 hours of sleep or 6 hours, and you'll say, no, I can't do that. I do really well on 6 hours of sleep. Well, the data is there to show us that people who are sleep deprived, even if that they feel that they function really well, have more chances of dementia, more chances of Alzheimer, more chances of cognitive issues in the long run. So whenever someone tells me that they do really well on very little sleep, I don't think they do, because at some point you end up paying for it. Sorry, I don't mean to be like super negative about this, but it's the truth, okay? And I can think of past prime ministers in the UK, like Margaret Thatcher used to sleep very little towards the end of her life. She had dementia. I'm not saying it's because of that, but that might have contributed to that. And also, it's been shown that people who take sleeping pills on a regular basis have more chances of Alzheimer's, dementia, and cognitive decline over time. So when I say you should be getting more sleep, I'm talking about natural sleep, not with a sleep aid. So the first thing is blood sugar regulation. The second thing is chronic inflammation and lymphatic drainage. So when we are lying down, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, kicks in. What is the link with chronic inflammation? Well, if you're resting and digesting, the first thing is your cortisol levels go down, so your inflammation goes down, because higher cortisol leads to higher chronic inflammation. Higher cortisol also leads to weight gain around the waist, because our fat cells around the waist are twice as sensitive to cortisol as the fat cells around the rest of the body. So when you're lying down and you're sleeping, you're lowering your cortisol levels, so you're lowering belly fat. You're also lowering your cortisol levels, i.e. you're lowering your chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation has been linked to weight gain. And last but not least, you are supporting your digestive system. And the majority of your immune system cells are in your digestive system, so that supports a healthy immune response and lowers chronic inflammation. But also, it has been shown that the gut microbiome has a very big role to play when it comes to the weight we carry. And when you are resting enough, your digestive system is healthier and you will have better gut microbiome and a healthier weight. So all of this happens during sleep, so don't shorten the number of hours of sleep you get. Try not to compromise on sleep. The other thing is, when you lower your chronic inflammation by sleeping enough, your lymphatic system works better and you reduce water retention. So sometimes a lack of sleep will also get you to have a little bit of water retention and carry more water weight. So you're going to look leaner when you sleep enough, and you might be slightly puffier if you don't sleep enough. I hope all of this is making sense so far. So sleep is so important for digestive function, immune function, blood sugar regulation, and hormonal balance. A lot of hormones get balanced during sleep. So we're talking about cortisol is a hormone, we're talking about estrogen, we're talking about progesterone, we're talking about testosterone, DHEA, but also two hormones that regulate your hunger called ghrelin and leptin. So it has been shown that people who are sleep deprived tend to have more hunger due to the blood sugar dysregulation, but also because of a dysregulation of ghrelin and leptin. So sleeping is going to make you feel fuller, literally, and will give you more energy, make you feel calmer, lower cortisol levels, and all of this, less water retention. So all of this really plays a big role into your weight and having a healthier body composition. Because you want to have less water weight, you want to have less fat, but you want to have all the repairs of the muscles, the soft tissues, for better muscle mass and bone mass. But the question is, now we know that sleep is great for weight loss, but how do you improve sleep in a natural manner? And I'm not talking about taking a sleeping pill. The first thing is setting your meals, your circadian rhythm. Many people will eat whenever they feel hungry, which is fine, but the body, a little bit like when you put a baby on a routine, so the first feed is at this time, second one is at this time, third one is at this time, this helps them have a sleep between that time and that time. So when you're trying to put a baby in a routine, is to help you achieve nights where the baby doesn't wake up and sleeps through the night. Well, it's the same for grown-ups. So treat yourself like a baby. Have breakfast every day at the same time. That's going to help you go to the loo roughly at the same time every day. You know, go to the bathroom for number 2. then have lunch every day around the same time, dinner around the same time, and then your body will fall asleep around the same time every day and you'll get into this good routine. If your meals are all over the place, it's much harder to get good sleep. So for example, if you're somebody who travels a lot, if you want to beat jet lag, the best way to do it before looking at what time you're going to bed is to set your meals to the local time. When I travel to a country, when I'm in the plane, I set my watch to the new time. And as soon as I get there, I try and eat at the local times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So for example, if I go to the US, coming from Europe, I might wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, slightly early, and might be starving at 5 a.m. for breakfast. But I make myself wait as close as possible to 7 a.m. to have breakfast, so then the lunch follows and dinner follows, and then I'll be able to sleep later and go into the US time zone. And same thing if I'm going east, but the other way around. So the first thing to have good sleep is to set your meal times and try and eat every day at the same time, so your circadian rhythm is set and your body falls asleep around the same time and wakes up around the same time every day. Humans thrive on routine, not just babies, grown-ups too. And that also gives you a lot of safety mentally. You know at what time the meals are, and your body will tend to be less hungry between meals if you have this regularity in your meal times. The body will just know this is when I'm getting breakfast, that's when I'm getting lunch, that's when I'm getting dinner, and you will be less inclined to have snacks. So the first thing is set your meals. Second thing is improve your gut health. The majority of the neurotransmitters, serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, and GABA are produced in the gut, about 60% for an adult and 80% for a child. That's why we call the gut the second brain and almost the first brain. You have more neurotransmitters in the gut than in the brain. And the neurotransmitters you want for sleep are serotonin and melatonin. So serotonin is the happy hormone, melatonin is the sleep hormone. But serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. So you want good levels of serotonin to be able to fall asleep. And serotonin is the opposite hormone of cortisol. So cortisol is the stress hormone, serotonin is the happy hormone. Oxytocin, which is the love hormone, also helps reduce cortisol. You know, when you hug somebody, immediately your cortisol levels go down. That's why during lockdown, when we were isolated and away from people, we all had very high cortisol levels, because for humans are social beings, and if we are outside of the group, we don't survive. So it's very deep in us that if we are isolated, our stress levels are higher. We need others to survive. So coming back to your gut health for sleep, really eat foods that support your gut health. And the Eat, Burn, Sleep lifestyle, the way I have structured the meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, the food timing, the meal composition, what you're eating first and then what you're eating second for breakfast, all of this is designed to improve your gut health. And that's why so many people on the lifestyle tell me that their sleep improves. And also they tell me, oh my God, I'm so much calmer, I have less brain fog, I can focus better, and I sleep better. Why does this happen? Because they improve their gut health and they reduce their neuroinflammation. So instantly, when you eat better food, you improve your serotonin response and your melatonin response. And that's why foods can truly elevate your cortisol levels. And if your cortisol levels are elevated, that's the stress hormone, because cortisol is the master hormone in the sense that cortisol is the hormone that helps you run if you're being attacked by a lion, okay? So it takes over the other hormones. If your cortisol levels are high, that's going to be more important for your body than having the right amount of estrogen or progesterone, because it is the hormone for survival. But the problem is now, things like screens, or lack of social interactions, or wrong foods elevate our cortisol levels, and our body goes into this fight or flight mode, which then impairs our hormonal health and impairs also our sleep. So look at your food, follow the green food lists 80% of the time, set your meals, follow the meal planner on the platform for optimal gut health, and lowering your inflammation, lowering your neuroinflammation, and improving your sleep. All these things will positively impact your sleep and lead to weight loss. So the cortisol element is huge through resting, through thoughts, but also through foods and everything that you're putting in your body. And last but not least, the routine that you have and the thoughts that you have every day highly impact your sleep. So I have a whole sleep section on the Eat, Burn, Sleep platform. And some of the things that I talk about are the mental wellness routines that I want you to do every day, several times a day. And the reason why I give you this is because we want to always keep your cortisol levels in the right range. What do I mean by this? If your cortisol levels are too high, it triggers what I've just spoken about, the hormone cascade. It's going to impair your melatonin production. It's going to really impact your sleep negatively. But also, in the morning, you want your cortisol levels to be higher because that's the go-getter hormone. It's the getting things done hormone. So you don't want like super low cortisol levels. And the way the lifestyle is structured between the movement, the food, and the thoughts and the mental wellness part is to help that. So having those little mental wellness moments during the day really help calm your mind and will help you sleep better. So you can't just work on sleep before bed. It happens all day long, from, in the morning, getting some sunlight, again, to help with your circadian rhythm, to doing your movement so your body is functioning well, your mind is functioning well is super important. And also all the videos that I share on the platform are anti-inflammatory movement videos, so you get the upside of working out without the downside. But I will record a whole podcast and masterclass just on this topic. But the mental wellness part is super important. And then what you do in the evening before sleep is super important. So if you are in high alert mode, high cortisol mode, on screens very late, in a go-getter mindset, working hard very late, it's going to be difficult for your body to wind down and get ready for sleep by 10 p.m. And the optimal times to get your 8 to 9 hours are between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. That's the window that has been shown to give you the most repair when it comes to sleep. So my advice is always to have your meals with the right composition, particularly the good carbs I talk about on the platform, at the same time every evening before 8 p.m. and then to start your wind down routine. And for me, I always try to leave my phone to charge in the kitchen or away from my bed for optimal sleep, because otherwise I find that it interferes with my thoughts to know that my phone is there. So I take it away and try to keep screens away from, the time where I'm going to go to bed. The thing is, it has been proven that when we look at things that are too close, so when I'm on my phone like this all day, it actually increases my cortisol levels. Why? Because when we were cavemen, if we could see really far, it means we were safe. We knew if there were any, predators around, any danger we can see, then we're safe. If we couldn't see, there were plants or things hiding the vision, cortisol levels are slightly elevated because we do not feel as safe. How does this translate in our modern world? We spend our time watching things that are super close, and the closest being the phone all the time. So try and reduce the time that you're spending on screens like that. And when you do walks, try to look far. That really reduces your cortisol levels and is going to help you sleep better. So I try and do that. And also, the blue light really interferes with the brain and sleep. So towards the evening, try to read a real book. It really calms you down. I find that for me, reading a real book with paper, after 20 minutes of reading, my mind just completely wants to sleep. And you can feel literally the stress levels going down. But then there are other things that can take your stress levels down, and each person is different. But for me, for example, cooking is super relaxing when the recipes are simple. And that's why a lot of my recipes are simple. So I find that in the evening, prepping a meal, relaxing and touching real ingredients, it's a form of earthing, calms me down. Then I'll go to my bathroom, I'll do my little skincare routine without looking at my phone, I think calms me down. Then get to bed, a real book. All of this is a little sleep routine that helps me sleep well. And whatever yours is, but try and create a ritual that you're doing every evening so your mind goes into sleep mode and you don't go from action mode of doing things to then putting yourself to bed and wondering why you're not falling asleep. So these are my advice of what to do in the evening for sleep. So in a nutshell, if you want to lose weight, don't just look at food and exercise and don't stress around it because that's going to increase cortisol. Focus on resting your body, relaxing, be more mindful through everything. And also that helps you be more mindful when you're eating, appreciating the food more, chewing slowly, looking at the food, and eventually producing more enzymes in the stomach and small intestine for digestive purposes, which then helps your gut health, which then helps you lose weight. So that's the main idea around sleep and weight. So don't think you're winning at life when you only need 5 or 6 hours of sleep. You're not. You need more sleep than that in the short run to repair all your cells, to keep a healthy body composition, to support all the functions in the body and all the organs, to repair your brain, to process emotions, to process the day. You need your sleep. But also, for the longer run, to prevent cognitive decline and to prevent, cognitive linked issues and things such as dementia and Alzheimer's. I hope you have enjoyed this solo podcast / masterclass. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure talking about health and inflammation, and I really invite you to invest into your health. It is your most precious asset. And people only realize this when they lose it, and it certainly was the case for me. I learned the hard way. But what I try and do now is teach people to find a way of keeping healthy without being over-obsessive, to live a lifestyle without feeling deprived. So spend time educating yourself. Go on eatburnsleep.com, watch the videos, read the articles, and join the platform. And we're there to support you all year round with food, mental wellness, and movement. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who are not members of the platform yet, we have a discount code for all our podcast listeners. You can get 15% off the memberships. Just enter the code podcast15 at checkout. And make sure to read all the articles and all the free content we have on eatburnsleep.com to keep you motivated and informed and educated about living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle.